Hello everyone, we are Group 4 and we will be discussing on housing and food insecurity. Our group consists of Eric, Nathan, Garrett, Trish, me, Javier, and Raylene.
This pyramid represents the three different social classes that we will be exploring today. Eric and Nathan will show us the lower income house, Garrett and Javier will show us the middle class, and Raylan and Trish will show us the high class.
Before we begin, I'm going to define what housing and food insecurities are. Housing insecurity is the problems that include safety, quality, affordability, and loss of housing. Food insecurity refers to the lack of accessible food and or expensive food.
Now that we have finished explaining the general idea on what we're going to be discussing about today, let us begin with the experiences people in lower classes face on a day-to-day basis. So hey guys, now we're going to take a look at the lower income house. As indicated earlier, the low class are at the bottom of the pyramid. Uh, Lower class are people who make less than 40,000 a year. Homelessness is not considered low class, it just refers to someone making less than 40K. The low class communities are at the very bottom and have it difficult because they don't have much money for food or stable housing. They are either unemployed, don't have access to supporting programs such as CalFresh, or because they are immigrants. And now we're just gonna take a walk inside the house and explore food insecurities.
So as you can see inside of our barrels, we barely have any food. Because of this, because we don't have a lot, we are more susceptible to cases like food insecurity or obesity or both. When we think of obesity, we think of people that eat too much, but in this case, it refers to families of lower income that usually overconsume food when it's available, or consume food that doesn't have the right amount of healthy nutrients like this potato. Um, we might also have, because we have high rates of food insecurity. This is why food stamps exist. A lot of lower class communities depend on programs such as the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, the Emergency Food Assistance Program, and the Child and Adult Care Food Program in order to provide them with their own food. So now we can look inside of our rooms. As you can see, um, they're very small, dimly lit, not a lot of furniture. And in our bathroom, it's very dirty, and we don't have a lot of other amenities that the other classes could afford.
Families who couldn't afford to buy their own houses were given the option to move into public housing projects. However, these type of neighborhoods come with their own set of problems, such as dangerously unsanitary living conditions, elevated rate of crime, and the possibility of residents becoming socially isolated from those who don't live in the same conditions. Families that already have a limited budget are forced to spend their money on other necessities such as medical care, childcare, and transportation. This limits the family spending money on
God,
other types of necessities such as food or housing.
you spawned too many!
Fuck. I'm just,
Wait.
I spawned I spawned three as soon as he walked up the door.
Sorry, you guys had to see that. Lower class neighborhoods could sometimes be very dangerous.
Okay, so before I was interrupted by that scene, I was going to finish off with families that already have a limited budget are forced to spend their money on other necessities such as medical care, childcare, and transportation. This limits the family's spending on other types of necessities such as food or housing.
Hello everyone, we're going to be talking about middle class. If your median household income for 2020 was from 41,000 to 120,000, you are considered middle class. Now that we got out of the way, let's head inside and see what's in store. Let's head into the kitchen. As you can see, the middle class, we have a variety of food. Food insecurity for the middle class can vary. Families of the middle class can apply for food stamps or are able to afford food without any problems.
As you can see, the living room is built with good quality materials along with being decorated very nicely. As you can also see, most middle-class families can own a pet, which is another form of security. The middle class can be defined as a heterogeneous group of people with similar social backgrounds and values, primarily business and professional people, bureaucrats, some farmers, and skilled workers. People defined as middle class for the most part live relatively comfortably and can buy certain luxuries for themselves. For an example, would be this computer.
The prices of goods and housing gradually increase in some cases. This can lead to financial difficulties for middle class families. Middle class families are able to live comfortably but fall under stress and deal with financial food and housing trouble similar to lower class families.
Today we're going to be showing you our high class house. And in order to be considered a part of the high class, you have to make more than $125,000. We're able to live in this area that is more safe, and we're able to send our children to better schooling because we live in a safer area and a better area that provides a lot more.
Okay, so when it goes up the house, okay, so this is our pool area, and we also have like a little fireplace area where people can like sit and talk and everything. And this is kind of like shows like a recreational area where the rich people can afford to financially afford space to kind of just do what they want rather than use it for something productive like actual gardening, fruits and vegetables and stuff. So that's like where it differs with the other classes.
And same thing in here, we're able to afford other amenities in our house, such as this beautiful aquarium that we're able to have these fish in there too, whereas other families in lower incomes probably would use it for something more productive for their family's lifestyle.
Yeah, and just to like upkeep an aquarium, you would have to have like a lot of money and time spent into it.
Yes,
And then
especially
over,
a lot that goes into it.
yeah, and then over here we have our kitchen and dining area. And food wise, the high class doesn't really have the same exact food insecurity that lower and middle class people have, but rather they might be caused for it since they're financially able to import specific goods in, and by buying like a lot of different foods like avocados, they're able to like increase the prices, therefore making it a lot less accessible to lower and middle class people. And then also, the majority of people who like go vegan or vegetarian are rich people because they can afford to.
So moving into this area, as you can see, there's a lot of different pieces of artwork on the wall, and they're able to afford this because they have extra money where they're not using it for their own leisure and what they need it for in their own and what they need for their own spending, and a lot of their billing is already paid for, so are able to use their money for extra things such as this.
And you can see in this house, there's like a lot of extra space, and it's usually because rich people like these high class people can't afford to have real estate with a lot of spaces, and actually a lot of rich people are into real estate also in owning multiple houses and giving them to rent. and that's how they make money while like also skyrocketing the prices. And then I think one common method would be like house flipping, where they take an undervalued house and they flip it and sell it for a higher value. And that's one of the ways where high class people can cause like a housing shortage because then they make it inaccessible and unaffordable for lower and middle class people.
Their houses also take up a lot more space in that sense too. So it also takes away from the real estate that could have been given for other areas too.
And as mentioned earlier, like she said in the beginning, you can see around this area it is nice and there's green grass everywhere, and there isn't as much pollution as there would be in a neighborhood where middle class or poor people would live, because usually the areas where they can afford are surrounded by pollution of traffic and highways, whereas high class people usually live in better areas with better uh, funding, I suppose, in both schooling and just the environment overall.
And in addition to that, as you could see from the lower class housing, their environment was very unsafe, and there isn't a lot of things that you have to worry about in this environment.
And that concludes our presentation.